So we went to see the Donald's former butler to get a real glimpse of the man.
But he is a fabulous person. That was really a wise pick.
The transition of Donald Trump from real estate magnate to president has been a phenomenon witnessed by people across the globe. At the age of 78, a former butler has chosen to reveal the unvarnished truth about Trump. This former employee is finally speaking up after decades of silence, threatening to uncover truths that might ruin Trump's image and show the public a side of him that the media never saw. Come with us as we investigate the life and work of a very contentious global figure. A native of Queens, New York City, Donald John Trump came into this world on June 14, 1946, at Jamaica Hospital. Mary Ann McLeod Trump and Fred Trump had 4 children together. He was the 4th. His mother was from Scotland, while his father was a real estate mogul with German roots. Mary Ann, Fred Jr., and Elizabeth were his elder siblings, and he had a younger brother named Robert. He grew up in a rich family. A sprawling mansion in Queens's exclusive Jamaica Estates neighborhood was home to the family. His father made sure that all of his children had a leg up financially by providing them with allowances that, when converted to today's money, were worth hundreds of thousands. In today's money, he had already amassed $1 million by the time he was 8 years old. His challenging behavior as a youngster was well documented. After finishing 7th grade at the exclusive Kew Forest School, he was transferred to the prestigious boarding school New York Military Academy to finish secondary school. He thought about making it big in the entertainment industry, but he eventually decided against it. Although he first attended Fordham University in 1966, he subsequently went to the highly esteemed Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, widely recognized as one of the nation's top business schools, in 1967. He earned a bachelor's degree in economics in May of 1968. At the time, the Vietnam War was still going on, and he managed to dodge draft day by claiming he had a medical condition, specifically bone spurs in his heels. In 1968, Donald became a partner in Trump Management, his father's real estate firm, after finishing college. The Trump Organization was born because of his father's appointment of him as president in 1971. His reputation for aggressive business practices, incessant self-promotion, and penchant for high-stakes litigation fights grew over the years. In times of legal and commercial conflict, he turned to Roy Cohn, a formidable attorney with extensive ties to the mafia and prominent political figures. His right-hand guy and mentor, Cohn taught him how to deal with enemies. Cohn assisted Trump with his countersuit for $100 million in 1973, when the federal government accused Trump management of housing discrimination. The case was later dismissed. Trump ultimately reached a settlement, but he fought off comparable charges for a long time. He always presented legal battles as successes, even when he was on the losing end. Roger Stone, a political strategist who would eventually become essential in Trump's relations with the government, was introduced to Trump by Cohn in the 1970s and 1980s. In an effort to diversify his wealth, Trump entered the casino industry alongside his real estate enterprise. The Plaza Hotel in Manhattan and other casinos in Atlantic City, New Jersey, were among 6 of his businesses that declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy between 1991 and 1999. His outward persona as a prosperous businessman was intact, even though he was having financial difficulties. Along with his siblings, he established All County Building Supply and Maintenance Corp. in 1992. Although it did not have any physical locations, it was an important part of their financial strategy. In order to justify raising rents on buildings that were previously rent-stabilized, the business reportedly overstated the expenses of services and supplies for Trump's rental units. Their earnings were skyrocketed by this strategy, and the renters ended up footing the bill for the higher prices. By the year 2001, Trump had moved his attention from business to political scandals. He rose to prominence as the leading voice in support of the unfounded assertion that Barack Obama, the nation's first black president, was not born in the United States. He took pride in his claims that he had compelled the government to reveal Obama's birth certificate and reiterated them time and time again. Even while Obama officially acknowledged his American birth in 2016, rumors suggested he's still voicing his misgivings about it in private talks the following year. In addition, Trump became known for his sexist remarks. In interviews and online, he made offensive comments about their looks, used demeaning language, and insulted them frequently. Over the course of several decades, at least 25 women have come forward to publicly accuse him of sexual misconduct, including exploitation, forced kissing, and groping. All accusations were rejected by him as politically driven falsehoods, and he denied them all. October 16th was the day of one of the most notorious events. An audio tape from 2000 came to light in which he brags about having sexual relations with women without their will, asserting that his fame gave him the right to do as he pleased. An instant public uproar ensued due to the released recording. Many doubted the sincerity of his first public apologies in his political career. The comments were dismissed by him as locker room talk, an effort to diminish their gravity. Whether in business, politics, or the media, Trump has always shown that he can influence public opinion to his advantage. He was the center of attention for decades due to his ability to shape narratives, his eagerness to push limits, and his tireless self-promotion. Regardless of the challenges he faced, such as financial difficulties, legal disputes, or scandals, he consistently avoided damage to his reputation. Despite setbacks, he has persevered and achieved great things in his life, which has been defined by controversy and ambition. The path to become president for Donald Trump was non-traditional. Prior to establishing himself as a Republican, his connection with the party changed several times. In 1987, he became a Republican Party member, but in 1989, he switched to the Independence Party, which was the New York division of the Reform Party. He first aligned himself with the Democrats in 2000, but he eventually went back to the Republicans in 2009. In 2001, he became unconnected with any political party. In 2002, he settled back into Republicanism. His shifting political persona mirrored his shifting position on many topics, but his unwavering beliefs on leadership and policymaking never changed. Even before he entered politics formally, Trump was outspoken on national and international issues. He bought full-page ads in major newspapers in 1987 to voice his opinions on national expenditures and foreign policy. In 1988, he approached Republican strategist Lee Atwater with the intention of being George H.W. Bush's running mate, due to his self-assured views. He persisted despite the idea's rejection as unfeasible. He ran for president in 2000 as a Reform Party primary candidate, but dropped out 3 months later. He considered challenging Barack Obama in the 2012 election more than 10 years later. Though he made appearances at conferences and early primary states to indicate his interest, he ultimately chose not to run in May of 2011. In June of 2015, Trump officially announced his candidacy for president, kicking off an unconventional and contentious campaign. He became the leading Republican candidate in March of 2016 and was widely expected to be the party's nominee by May of the same year. During his campaign, he made several strong claims, although they were not always clear or accurate. He never stopped criticizing the media and falsely accused journalists of prejudice. National polls consistently had Hillary Clinton in the lead, although her lead shrank by July. At the Republican National Convention that same month, Trump formally nominated Mike Pence, the governor of Indiana, to be his running mate. In 3 debates held in September and October, Trump faced Clinton for the presidency. On 2 occasions, he declined to accept the outcome of the election if he was defeated. People were quite critical of his speech and campaign approach. According to some experts, he was trying to play on people's gender and race differences. Many people were outraged by his statements on Mexican immigrants in his campaign launch speech, which made him notorious. As a result of the scandal, NBC cut connections with him and fired him from his long-running role on Celebrity Apprentice. Another divisive topic was financial transparency. Trump had assets of more than $1.4 billion and debts of more than $315 million, according to records with the Federal Election Commission, FEC. He broke a pattern followed by major candidates since 1976 by not releasing his tax records, despite his promise to do so. He asserted that disclosure was hindered by an ongoing audit. As part of their criminal probe, the authorities wanted access to his bank information. which led to a protracted court struggle. The U.S. Supreme Court finally granted prosecutors access to his tax records after he filed many petitions. A section of his 199.5 state tax returns emerged in October 2016 before this verdict, showing a claimed loss of $916 million. He could have avoided paying taxes for up to 18 years if this had happened. The results were surprising when Election Day rolled around on November 8, 2000. Trump received 326 electoral votes committed, while Clinton received 232 from her supporters. The final tally was 354 to 227 after a few vote-stealing candidates retired. Despite losing the popular vote to Clinton by roughly 2.9 million votes, he became the fifth president of the United States to win the Electoral College. His surprising triumph with 46 to 33% of the vote compared to her 48% was the stuff of legend. Having no background in politics or the military, he became president unlike any of his predecessors. With his victory, the Republicans took over the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the House of Representatives. His election, however, brought the country's long-standing political division into sharp focus as it ignited protests in several major cities. At the same time, Trump did not squander any time getting ready for re-election. His re-election paperwork was submitted just hours after his inauguration in January of 2017. A few short weeks after that, he organized his first rally for the 2000 race. The Republican candidacy was back in his possession by August of the year 2000. Law and order was a central theme of his re-election campaign, as he warned that under Democratic nominee Joe Biden's leadership, there would be extensive anarchy. Relying on polarizing language, he frequently distorted Biden's proposals. Even before the year 2000, Trump started to raise questions about the legitimacy of the election process, asserting, without evidence, that he would be unfairly targeted. Despite the lack of proof, he maintained that mail-in voting would result in widespread fraud. Opponents of his policies interpreted them as an effort to limit voters' ability to cast ballots by mail. His frequent denials of responsibility to ensure a peaceful handover of power in the event of his defeat raised legitimate worries about the credibility of the democratic process as the election approached. There has never been an American presidential election as contentious as the one in 2000. Joe Biden beat Donald Trump by more than 74 million votes, securing victory. With this result, Biden had a 51 to 33% majority and 366 electoral votes, easily defeating Trump by a margin of 223 to 264. The official confirmation of Biden's victory by the Electoral College came on December 14th. Nevertheless, Trump announced his victory before the results were in. Even when further predictions showed Biden as the victor, Trump continued to deny the findings and claimed the election was stolen from him. In an effort to reverse the results, Trump and his supporters have filed many lawsuits in different states. The absence of solid evidence led at least 86 state and federal courts to reject the claims. Officials from each state's elections department likewise denied Trump's assertions and reaffirmed the integrity of the voting process. Yet another setback for Trump's campaign came when the Supreme Court turned down a petition to reverse Biden's wins in 4 elections. Trump, who would not budge, put pressure on important officials to ensure his continued rule. In an effort to have the findings challenged, he contacted Republican state authorities, lawmakers, and even the Justice Department. He implored the Secretary of State of Georgia to find sufficient votes to reverse Biden's triumph in that state. To prevent the certification of electoral votes, he also consulted with Vice President Mike Pence. Sadly, not a single one of these endeavors was fruitful. During the weeks following the election, Trump was practically invisible to the public. Because of his actions, Biden's team was unable to access vital government resources during the formal transition time. When the General Services Administration eventually acknowledged Biden as the apparent winner 3 weeks later, they were able to release transition monies and resources. Not even at that point did Trump officially admit defeat. He became the first departing president to not attend an inauguration in more than 150 years when he declined to attend Biden's on January 20th. Concerns inside the U.S. military were the subject of disturbing stories at this time of change. Top authorities were on high alert, planning for the worst-case scenario in which Trump tried to maintain power by any means necessary. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley and CIA Director Gina Haspel were especially concerned that Trump may attempt to declare martial law or initiate a military attack. Any significant military decision, even those involving nuclear weapons, required Milley's involvement, as he made plain. January 6, 2001 was the day tensions were at their highest. Trump rallied near the White House while Congress met to confirm Biden's triumph. He gave a fervent speech behind a glass barrier, calling for his followers to come to the Capitol and fight like hell. Inspiring a huge mob to action, they broke windows, overcame police, and evacuated members of Congress from the building. Because of the disorderly siege, certification could not proceed. He took to social media hours into the assault to send messages, but they failed to halt the bloodshed. At around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Putin finally instructed the rioters to return home, while simultaneously referring to them as great patriots and restating his baseless accusation that the election had been rigged. 5 people lost their lives, and around 140 police officers were hurt in the conflict. A coup attempt was the common description of what happened. In the early hours of January 7th, Congress formally validated Biden's victory after reconvening later that night, despite the tumult. Trump remained influential inside the Republican Party when he left office, settling at his Florida Mar-a-Lago estate. His continued involvement in politics set him apart from previous presidents, who tended to stay out of it. He persisted in promoting unfounded assertions on the 2000 election, which his detractors dubbed the Big Lie. By mid-2001, he had turned the phrase upside down, arguing that he had been the legitimate victor of the election. The impact of Trump went well beyond his statements. Republican legislators sought to impose more stringent voting regulations in response to his allegations of electoral fraud. Despite claims that these additional regulations were necessary to ensure fair elections, many citizens viewed them as an effort to limit their right to cast ballots. The Republican Party itself was unable to match Trump's massive campaign war chest. A political mecca, his Mar-a-Lago home played host to events benefiting politicians he supported. He was intent on reorganizing the party by filling important posts with loyalists. Over 200 candidates received Trump's endorsement in the 22nd midterm election. The credibility of his recommendations helped him consolidate power within the party. His unwavering commitment elevated him above the status of a mere past president. He emerged as the preeminent figure in Republican politics. But Trump's behavior in the run-up to the 2000 election lingered on in his mind. A House committee looked into the attack on January 6th, and his involvement in the rebellion was thoroughly investigated. He was recommended for criminal charges by the committee in December of the year 2002. They said he was involved in plots to defraud the U.S. and encouraging or aiding insurgents, as well as disrupting an official process. When a Georgia grand jury indicted him on 13 offenses, including racketeering, in August 2023, his legal problems became even worse. A federal grand jury indicted him for trying to reverse the state's election results. This lawsuit was only the latest in a long line of legal troubles that had already doomed his political career. Trump maintained his status as a pivotal force in American politics despite the increasing number of legal challenges. At the same time, his private life has always captivated the media. Donald Trump has always been more than simply a politician and businessman. Not only have his ideas been the subject of heated controversy, but his private life has also been a media darling, what with all of his high-profile marriages, affairs, and spectacles. The former Czech model and professional skier Ivana Zelníčková was introduced to Trump. Trump proposed with a diamond ring after their brief but passionate affair. Trump, as Ivana would come to remember, sought to flaunt his prosperity in everything he did, even their engagement. The Marble Collegiate Church in New York City was the site of their magnificent wedding in April of 1977. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, a famous clergyman whose impact on Trump would endure for many years, presided over the event. The celebration solidified Trump and Ivana's status as a rising power couple in New York. Their reception site, the exclusive 21 Club, was a fitting tribute to their status as members of New York's upper crust. Trump and Ivana's profile in elite circles rose in tandem with the growth of their real estate enterprise. In addition to being his wife, she played a crucial role in his business, serving in capacities such as supervising the Plaza Hotel's interior design. Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric were born into their union, which was a happy medium between love and business. The late 1980s, however, saw the beginning of the fissures. Trump's marriage was severely tested when his romance with actress Marla Maples became a media phenomenon. Ivana received a settlement of $14 million and other assets when the divorce was finalized in 1992. She proved she could succeed in the real world, unencumbered by Trump's glare, by rebranding herself as an entrepreneur and writer. Trump had been interested in Southern-born actress Marla Maples for a long time before his marriage collapsed. Their romance was a hot topic, making news stories and gossip columns spin indefinitely. The specifics of Trump's diamond engagement ring were never as much spoken about as his last one, but he did pop the question by 1993. The wedding took place on December 13, 1993, at the Plaza Hotel, which Trump had infamously purchased many years before. With 1,000 guests in attendance, including famous and powerful people, the wedding was an absolute blast. Marla became the center of attention when she wore a Carolina Herrera satin gown and looked absolutely stunning. Instead of seeing their marriage as the result of a scandal, the lavish ceremony was an effort to change the storyline. And further layer of public attention was added to their nuptials that year with the birth of their daughter, Tiffany Trump. Their marriage quickly encountered difficulties, despite the lavish wedding and public attempts to seem unified. Marla's struggle to find her own identity and Trump's relentless emphasis on business ultimately led to their split in 1997. Another chapter of Trump's love life came to a close in 1999 when the divorce was completed. While Trump's status as a staple of tabloids intensified, Marla continued on with her showbiz career. Melania Naus, a Slovenian model, and Donald Trump met at a New York fashion event in 1998. They dated for a while, and by 2004, she had proposed with a 15-carat diamond ring from Graf Diamonds, supposedly worth $1.5 million. As a consummate businessman, Trump was pleased to brag about the steep discount he had negotiated for the ring in interviews. The engagement cemented Melania's status in the elite and increased her visibility in the media. The lavish ceremony that took place on January 22, 2000, was their wedding day. Attendees included Hollywood heavy hitters and wealthy Palm Beachers at the Episcopal Church of Bethesda by the Sea. The show-stopping gown that Melania wore was created by John Galliano for Christian Dior. It was embellished with thousands of rhinestones and pearls and was made from 300 feet of satin. Adding to the day's spectacle, the gown was supposedly 60 pounds heavy due to its ornate design. The lavish celebration continued at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. A 200-pound, 7-tiered wedding cake adorned with 3,000 sugar flowers was served to the guests. Trump was further portrayed during the party as someone who did not hold back when it came to spending money. Baron William Trump was born to Melania and Donald in the year 2000. She raised Barron and supported her husband's business ventures while remaining out of the spotlight, unlike Trump's prior wives. But when Trump launched his candidacy for president in 2015, everything changed. Navigating the strains of political life, Melania was suddenly catapulted into the national and worldwide limelight. To promote children's well-being and address internet conduct, she created the Be Best project while serving as First Lady. Melania received more international attention than any of Trump's former wives, Ivana and Marla. She stuck by his side through all the ups and downs of public life and politics. Reportedly, in 2018, it came to light that his lawyer had reportedly paid adult film actress Stormy Daniels $130,000 to defang allegations of an affair in 2016. Similarly, rumors indicated that attempts were made to keep the tale of Karen McDougal, a former Playboy model, from coming to light, since she claimed to have had an affair with Trump. The public's insatiable curiosity for Trump's private life is evidence that his business dealings are fascinating in their own right. A man who worked as butler for former President Donald Trump has spoken up, exposing disturbing details about Trump's personal life. The former Trump employee alleges that throughout his time working for the president, he saw unethical behavior, manipulation of business partners, and unfair treatment of employees. Also detailed by the insider is a rich but disorganized way of living, full of hasty judgments and secret plots. Among nonprofits, the Donald J. Trump Foundation is notable, albeit not for the reasons that are immediately apparent. A typical charitable foundation would seem very different from the way this one runs and the decisions it makes with its donations. Unlike other charities, the Trump Foundation has a history that shows it has interests other than helping people in need, supporting significant causes, or sponsoring projects that have a positive impact on people's lives. Money that was supposed to be going into this organization has been used in ways that make one wonder what the real goal of the foundation is. An out-of-the-ordinary instance sticks out. Trump spent $20,000 from the charity to buy a life-size portrait of himself. Standing at a towering 2 meters, this piece of art was certainly not the type of investment one would anticipate from a charitable organization. For good purposes, there are charitable organizations. It would be an entirely different story if Trump had spent his own money on such a luxury. However, Trump did not even provide the bulk of the funding for the organization. According to reports, Trump has refrained from donating personally to the charity since the year 2008. On the contrary, he had solicited gifts from other wealthy benefactors by using its nonprofit status. Next, he gave the money to other charities, posing as a philanthropist when it was time to disperse it. He received an award for donating $150,000 to a police group, all because he gave the impression of being kind. However, Trump did not personally contribute any of that money. Rather, it originated with the Evans Foundation. Donor funds were handled in an equally dubious manner in other instances. Donors to Trump's campaign often had the expectation that their money would be utilized to propel him to victory over Clinton. Their donations were probably intended to cover campaign expenses like ads, rallies, and other necessities. Trump using some of their funds to buy himself books worth $55 million was certainly something they weren't expecting. Although it is not unprecedented for authors to purchase substantial volumes of their own work, Trump's example presents a significant distinction. Although there have been authors who have purchased hundreds of copies to increase sales, very few have ever utilized campaign cash for political purposes to buy thousands of copies at full price. Retail sales factor into bestseller rankings, so that difference is significant. Trump was able to manipulate the New York Times bestseller list to benefit his book by utilizing campaign cash in this manner. Trump's actions in the corporate world have likewise been characterized by unethical practices. He bought a building close to Central Park in 1981 with intentions to tear it down and build a mansion there. Nonetheless, the current occupants of the building declined to vacate. Trump's reaction lacked both patience and a willingness to negotiate. On the contrary, he exacerbated their misery. Even in the dead of winter in New York, heat and hot water were switched off. Things became worse because leaks were disregarded. The structure was infested by rats. The maintenance crew was told to keep tabs on the residents. Early in the morning, construction workers started working immediately above the flat of a cancer-stricken elderly woman. Despite her cries for help, Trump took no action. He went to extreme lengths, including letting the building's residents live on the streets. The locals took this as a deliberate attempt to force them to leave. Trump was compelled to change his strategy when the matter reached the courtroom. All of that never occurred, he says now. Even Trump's commercial dealings with immigrants run counter to his public statements on the matter. He campaigned on a platform that included outright support for deporting illegal immigrants. Still, he knew in 1988 that he was using Polish people who were in the nation illegally to construct Trump Tower. Even though he subsequently denied it, several witnesses, including an FBI informant, stated under oath that he was completely cognizant of what was going on. Working in an unsafe workplace 7 days a week, these workers put up with terrible circumstances. Their promised earnings, which were as low as $5 per hour, were sometimes withheld as well. In response to their worries, Trump threatened deportation unless they stopped. Sleeping on the job was the only option for many of these employees. Taking legal action to demand compensation and a stake in the building was the only thing that eased the situation. Falsifying facts has been leveled at Trump time and time again during his career. Even though prominent people sometimes face accusations of dishonesty, Trump's handling of the situation is noteworthy. Under oath, he was asked to confirm claims he had previously made in a case that took place in the year 2007. He eventually conceded throughout the trial that 30 of the claims were untrue. From inflated boasts about his fortune to false assertions on his business dealings, these falsehoods covered it all. A few of them were slight distortions. Some were completely made up. All of them were recorded in the court records, no matter how serious they were. Considering that Trump's political ascent was predicated on his reputation as a truth-teller, someone who dared to speak frankly when others were frightened to, this is especially noteworthy. When these events are considered collectively, a complicated picture emerges. There is a pattern of conduct that puts self-interest ahead of ethics, as shown by the Trump Foundation's dubious expenditure, the use of campaign cash for self-promotion, the unethical treatment of renters and employees, and the lengthy history of stretching the facts. These revelations, spanning decades, show a different side of Trump than the one he has tried to portray. His inscrutable tale unfolds in every aspect of his life, from business to politics to philanthropy. Like, subscribe, and click the next video button on your screen if you liked this one.